What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Nico, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a review on the Rolex Submariner, specifically this one right here. This is the Rolex reference number 116613, which is, as of making this video, the most modern Submariner. And this one in particular is the two-tone version, steel and yellow gold, and as you can see, it's got the black bezel, black ceramic bezel, and black dial. Now, this video isn't going to be highly technical. If you guys want to see a very technical video of the ins and outs of this watch, I highly recommend that you check out Tim Masso of the Watchbox and the Watchbox Reviews. I'm going to link his video review of this watch down below so you can check it out. I think that he does the most in-depth reviews on YouTube. He probably has the most knowledge of watches and also the widest scope of knowledge in terms of the amount of watches at least in the YouTube space. So if you guys are searching for information about any specific watch, he probably has a video review of that specific watch on the Watchbox Reviews channel. Again, I'll leave a link to his review of this watch down below. In this video, I'm going to more so talk about my experience of owning this watch for a year now. So I've been wearing this as my daily watch, although over the past few months I haven't been wearing a watch every single day, but I'm now starting to wear a watch again. But yeah, I'm just going to share with you my experience and also talk about some of the features that I really like about this watch, and also why I think that this might be the best Rolex sport watch currently in production at the moment. For those of you that don't know, the Rolex Submariner is one of Rolex's most iconic watches. It's been in the lineup since 1953 or 1954, and it's been in production since. It's gone through a lot of different variations and reference numbers with small upgrades along the way, but it's always had this sort of Submariner DNA that you see even in the most modern watches today. In fact, if you ask me what I think the most Rolex watch is, I'd probably say either the Submariner or the Rolex Datejust. When I think of Rolex, those are the two models that I think of today. Even though, in today's world, the hype is all with the Daytona, I think that the Rolex Submariner, it's got its fan base. It's still very popular and highly collectible, but I think that it needs a little bit more love in this sort of environment and this time when the Daytona gets all of the action. So again, in this video, I'm going to talk about some of the main features and my favorite features of this watch. And a lot of the features of this watch aren't exclusive just to the Submariner. A lot of the individual features you will find in other watches as well. But it's the fact that Rolex put all these different features into one watch that makes me think or believe and just put the argument out that this might be the best modern sports watch that Rolex offers. I'm going to start off with the size of the Rolex Submariner. This is a 40 millimeter watch. So it's 40 millimeters across if you don't include the crown or the crown guard. And from lug to lug, it is 48 millimeters, which is a very good size. It shares the same dimensions as the previous generation Submariner. Although what you will notice is that it's a lot beefier looking, it's a lot thicker looking, and this is something that Rolex introduced called the Super Case, which is thicker lines and more masculine lines. And they introduced this, I think, first with the GMT Master 2, which is in current production, but it was when they introduced that shape, it was with the GMT Master 2, followed by the Rolex Submariner, and it's had this shape since. And I like it. I like the size, I like the fit, and I think that it's a size that will fit a lot of wrists today. Anywhere from really big wrists down to smaller wrists, male, female, it fits, all sorts of wrists, and it looks good. Sometimes I do feel that Rolex should move towards that more elegant shape that you will still find in something like the Daytona or the Yachtmaster, and I feel like in a few years they might start moving back to that sort of shape because I think that's becoming a little bit more popular. But overall, I think this shape is still very nice. I love it, and more importantly, I think the size fits most wrists, and I think that is the first thing that I should point out when I'm talking about this watch. This is a watch that looks good in all sorts of wrists, big, small, male, female. The second thing I want to talk about is the clasp of this watch. Now, this being the Rolex Submariner, this is a dive watch, So traditionally it's meant to, be worn over a wetsuit. And because of that, they added what is called the glide lock clasp. This is not a clasp found on all Rolexes. A lot of Rolex sport models have an easy link adjustment, which is a 5mm adjustment that you can like sort of open and close, which is a very nice tool for you to be able to adjust your watch if you're going to put it over a piece of clothing or if your wrist expands. But again, that's a big adjustment and it's only one adjustment. This glide lock clasp allows you to adjust the clasp, and I believe it's up to 2 centimeters, which is a very long adjustment, and you can adjust them in small increments. Now, this isn't a feature that I thought I would even use when I first got this watch, but it's become one of my favorite features of this watch. Again, this was meant so that you could wear this watch on a regular day, and then if you had to put it on a wetsuit or something like that, you could easily open it up and put it around a thicker wetsuit. But for me, living here in the Philippines, the weather is a little bit warmer, and on some days my wrist changes sizes a lot. I'll wake up in the morning and my wrist is maybe a little bit smaller than it is at the end of the day, depending on the weather, depending on whether I go out, depending on all sorts of things. And I find that my wrist changes sizes a lot. After I work out, it's going to be a different size. So, my wrist changes, and so the fit of the watch changes. Sometimes I'll wear the watch and later on in the day, I find the watch sliding, back and forth on my wrist because my wrist for some reason has shrunk a little bit. And so this glide lock clasp allows me to adjust the watch in very small increments to tailor fit to my wrist. And this feature might not be of interest to some of you, but for me at least, having used this feature, having had this feature on this watch, especially on this specific one that's two-tone and a little bit heavier, the fit is very important to me. And after using this adjustment system, if ever I look for a different watch to purchase, the clasp is something I'm going to, take a good look at. And now I might lean towards dive watches altogether because these type of adjustment systems are very good. And again, with the changing wrist size that I experience all throughout the day, this might be a must for me moving forward, especially with metal bracelets. The third feature that I want to talk about is the timing bezel. Again, this is a feature that is found in most dive watches today. And again, this is a feature that I didn't think I would use too much. I've never gone diving with this watch. I didn't mention in the beginning, but this was actually my dad's watch, and he passed it down to me 1 year ago. And I've seen him wear this watch in the ocean, maybe not to dive, but he's gone like snorkeling and stuff, which I think is very cool. I would love to do that, but I'm not sure if I'm confident enough to just bring this to the beach, but I find the idea of that very cool, but I haven't yet. But anyway, I haven't used this to dive or to do anything like that, but I have used the timing bezel. So the timing bezel, the way it works is, you can use it a bunch of ways, but the way I typically use it is that if I'm going to time something, I match the lume pip with the minute hand, and then I just see where the minute hand goes. So if I'm timing for 10 minutes, I wait till the minute hand hits the 10 mark, and then I know that it's been 10 minutes. This was traditionally used for diving. That's why it only goes one direction. This is what's called a unidirectional bezel. So that just ensures that you don't change the timing bezel in the way that it makes the time longer. And if anything, it's going to go shorter, just to make sure you're safe if you're going to use it to time your dives or anything like that. But yeah, I use it to time things like if I'm cooking something that is very time specific, then I'll use this. Sometimes if I'm making coffee, when I didn't own my scale that has a timer, I would use my watch, and I would use the timing bezel just for fun. You don't really need this. Everyone pretty much has a timer if you have a smartphone. But when you're handling food, that's a little bit, like where you don't want to keep washing your hands to handle your phone, it's much easier to adjust the time or the timing bezel on your watch. In addition to that, I think that the Rolex bezel, and I've handled quite a few dive bezels, in my time of being interested in watches. I think the Rolex dive bezel is the smoothest bezel out there. It's got the perfect mixture of sort of robustness. There's a security to the clicks, but it's also smooth, and that makes it super nice. In addition to that, it's also 120 clicks, which a lot of dive bezels are 120 clicks, but it makes it just a little bit more accurate when you're adjusting the timing bezel or the dive bezel. So overall, this is a very nice dive bezel. The fourth feature is just the general robustness of the watch. This is again a dive watch, which means it's highly water resistant. The Submariner specifically is 300 meters water resistant, almost 1,000 feet water resistant. So in that sense, I'm never really worried about getting the watch wet. With one of my watches, I have an Omega Speedmaster. It's not a professional, it's a triple date. But that one got a little bit wet and the whole inside got very moist, and I had to get it serviced, even though that watch I think is technically 100 meters water resistant, something like that. You know, it doesn't have screw down pushers or anything like that. So with watches that aren't highly water resistant, I'm always sort of nervous to get them even a little bit wet, but not with this watch. The fact that it's 300 meters water resistant means that I'll, you know, wash my hands, even submerge my hands in water, and I'll be 100% confident. In addition to that, it's got a very robust movement. It's got the 3135 movement, which is, if we're talking about modern Rolexes, it's an older movement. I think it's over 20 years old, if not over 30 years old. It's a very old movement, but it's still very robust, 48 hours power reserve, and it's pretty much bomb-proof, just like other Rolex movements. Final thing that I want to mention is just the versatility of this watch. And I'm going to talk about the Submariner specifically, as well as how I wear this two-tone version. Now, as you guys know, if you guys watch some of my videos, I pretty much wear the same thing every day. I wear a white shirt, and if I'm going to work out, I'll wear gym shorts. If I'm going out, I'll either wear jeans or cargo shorts or cargo pants, something like that. Pretty simple. And I think that this watch being two-tone, you know, a lot of people will say this is blingy or it stands out, but to me that just makes it a little bit more casual. The fact that it's a little bit, you know, brighter, pops a little bit more, at least to me, makes it feel like it's a little bit more casual. Whereas if you have something a little bit more subtle, that to me is more elegant. You know, stuff that's very elegant doesn't stand out too much. So I like wearing this with very casual clothes, whether it's jeans and a t-shirt, things like that. I think that this is a good look. It's got that tool look, but it's got a little bit of pop to it. Now again, these features that I mentioned aren't exclusive to just the Rolex Submariner, but if you put them all together, if you talk about the water resistance, if you talk about the timing bezel, if you talk about the clasp, and if you talk about the size, this is really the only watch that Rolex currently has in its lineup that has all those features. It previously had the Sea Dweller 4000, which was a great watch, but not highly sought after, which is why they discontinued it, which in turn made it even more highly sought after, which is ironic, but that's the way Rolex works. That was an amazing watch. That was a 40mm watch that was even more robust than this watch right here. So if you have that watch, that's amazing, but that one is not currently for sale. It was replaced by the 43mm watch, which I don't think fits smaller wrists as well. So yeah, just in terms of all those features put together, you only get that with the Submariner. That still might not be your style. You might like the Daytona more, you might like the GMT Master 2 more, you might like other models more, but I just wanted to throw it out there, just put all those, you know, different features together and show you guys why this is such a cool watch. And yeah, that's my review of this watch. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you found this video helpful, or if you liked it, consider giving this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys in the next video.